Hello and welcome to episode 5 of Superb Diamond Range. Today's date is the 18th of November 2013, and today's episode is going to be about NHS, hospitals, GPs, and our own health.
Thank you, Superb. Today's show should be good. Um, okay, the NHS, hospitals, GPs, and our own health. This is something I guarantee you most of us in our life would have come across. So, no doubt most people in the world would have been born in a hospital. But, prior to my generation, a lot of people were actually born at home, which is probably even better as well. And funny enough, in today's world, not too many people outside the medical industry are trained to give birth to actually pull the baby out. And back we're talking in Africa, in most places, a lot of that happens at home. But over here in Europe, the Western world, it's seen as something that someone else has to do. So over to you, Superb. So would you say that it is necessary to go to a hospital?
Personally, I believe that home birth is ideal because obviously the mother is going to be in a comfortable environment, a place that she's familiar. Family will be around. If they want to go to their own bed, they can, and I would say it would be less stressful for them because it can be quite stressful in a strange foreign place like a hospital. But I definitely believe in home births, and I know that one of the biggest fears people have is, obviously if they're in the hospital, if anything's wrong with the baby, they think that it's easier to get them, help quickly. But I think a lot of people need to just, relax and just, everything will be all right. Just take good care of yourself and eat healthily and during the pregnancy and, um, you know, try and stay stress free, and it should all be all right in the end.
It's very good because you find a lot of people do put a lot too much trust in doctors, and it's not their fault. It's not, that's the way we are trained. As we did last week, we've been sort of brainwashed to thinking we have no answers, and every department of our life or of this structure, the system, there's someone trained to do something. So it works as one big jigsaw puzzle. So
Definitely. I mean, I've got a relative in Ireland, and a cousin of mine, and they started charging like to visit the GP now, and I think it's the last time he told me a couple of years back it was €79 just to visit the doctor each time. And now he's sort of said that he doesn't need the doctor anymore. That he goes on Google and he researches himself any problem he has. And I think that there is definitely a lot of information out there on the net and in books as well, where you can sort of learn how to heal yourself and find out cures and things like that. Because as we know, that a lot of the doctors don't really get to the root of the problem. Um,
unfortunately, you're right there, Superb. Um, they will, in most cases, they will put you out of your pain, like a pain reliever or an antibiotic type of medicine. But as you said, to get to the root of the problem and to fix you or whatever's wrong, that's not really their intention. Because remember, the medical industry is not really about helping us or healing us properly. It's about helping us a little bit, but helping us enough that we need to go back again.
exactly. Yeah.
Because people being sick makes money, and we need to sort of learn.
Definitely. Definitely. Yes,
So
so one of the first places that we, obviously experience like hospitals, I guess, would be when we are born into the world. obviously you might see your mother, but usually you get picked up very quickly by like a nurse or midwife. Um,
You're right, because unfortunately, it would be nice to be pulled out and welcomed into the planet by a relative or a loved one instead of someone just doing a job who, who's pulling you out roughly. You don't know who they are, and you don't know if they're doing this with love and care. And a lot of babies are pulled out safely. I may say, I'm not having a go at anyone, but they're pulled out safely, and the first feeling, what we experience, is a slap on the bum to make us cry. Is that really necessary?
that's
I'd
right.
like to sort of hear some feedback about that, but I'm sure smack, represents something else as well. It's a violent act, and
Definitely.
one of the first feelings you feel as a new soul into this planet is a smack, and being smacked around is what sort of goes on throughout the whole world. Countries smacking other countries, and we go to
Definitely.
school, we get smacked around by teachers. You do something wrong, you get a smack. So,
Talking about smack, other thing that goes on quite a bit now is obviously the vaccinations in hospitals, and I mean, I'm against them. I'm sure you are, Diamond.
totally,
But
totally.
I mean, it's just you don't know what they're giving you, what they're putting into you. Um, Obviously, your immune system is developing. You want it to develop fully, but they're kind of putting an end to that, so they're sort of weakening it, so that obviously later on you become a repeat customer
Yeah,
to the medical industry.
no, you're right. They're superb. Um, it's so sad that a baby, I would say, is born perfect, and these people in this industry are tricked. Doctors are tricked also because they do all these years in schooling and learning about medicines, and they've been tricked
Definitely, they're just
into
as brainwashed as police, or
brainwashed. And they will tell you that a baby will need medicine and injections to for all these later on side effects or illnesses that can happen to them. But I seriously believe we are born perfect. There's no, because we're children of God, and
definitely.
we've come through with safely, and blaff an injection straight away. Welcome to the system. That's what that injection says.
Yeah,
Welcome to maybe cancer later on in life, because, like you said, the immune system is developing, and it doesn't get a chance to grow properly with all this going on.
and I mean we noticed as well that there's a lot more vaccinations now than there used to be, and they've got so many different names and they're for so many different things. And obviously, there's later on in life when they try to get you to go to school as well. They in certain schools, like I think in Australia and possibly America, where basically if you don't get an up to date vaccination, they won't allow you to attend the school. So the parents feel forced to vaccinate them just to allow them to go to school.
That is amazing, and
Yeah, it's
does not
absolutely
surprise me. Sorry to say, um, it is shocking and it's sad, and it's a form of bribery. But these are sort of bribes that the human race are happy to go along with.
definitely, yeah, exactly. I mean, people think it's so important their education, but I would put I'd put health above that. I think that's one of the most important things that a lot of people forget. People are so busy chasing money, but your health is your wealth, and
Exactly.
it's the most important thing. You want to feel good, you want to be comfortable in your body. So you got to look after yourself, or else you're just going to suffer and have a lot of pain later on. And I
very
mean, I
true.
don't really want to spend a lot of my days in hospitals or in in those kind of arenas. So I
It's
think
really
the best thing to do is look after yourself.
well said because for me, my impression of hospitals are very, very depressing places. I would, sorry to say, I put hospitals alongside schools and prisons.
Definitely.
So depressing. I just got a really creepy feeling when I walk past one. And I sorry to say, I never really got on at school because I'm open-minded and all throughout my life I've been the same. And I just couldn't gel with any of these subjects, to be honest. Not saying I failed everything, but I did pass a few, and I was good at arts, but in general, I just couldn't get on at school. And hospitals gives me the creeps.
And also, like, I had a friend that I think he worked as a radiologist, and he told me that a lot of the doctors and even some of the nurses that he'd worked with were very, very rude towards him. And he said that because of the some of the doctors were on a lot more money than him, that they sort of felt they were better and treated him differently,
Oh,
and a lot of the nurses are doing loads of overtime, so they're obviously not. They're probably so tired. They're not doing their job properly. They're not caring for the people that do come in. So you might have an experience where you go in and you can't believe that no one really cares or about you at all.
it
It's like
is. You're right. It is shocking because the human life is seen less than a piece of cattle. To be honest,
definitely.
we're seen like meat. In the many cases, someone goes in hospital for something very minor, and they're wheeled in and they wheeled out dead.
That's
You
right.
know,
I mean, it's just like nobody wants to be there, and things can happen like accidents, emergencies. But you'd think that the people that meet and greet you would be nice to you, help you, and loving and caring. But you don't experience that. At least not over here, anyway. That
but you're right. Going on to you saying about how the doctors and surgeons think they're big shots. It's a bit the same with most professions, where you may meet a sergeant or a colonel, and they think their shit doesn't stink.
yeah,
Um, and there's no surprise here in that, to be honest. Because they really do believe the hype that their position is what they are, and you should bow down to them. And
definitely. I mean,
star
they've
position is just a fictitious title.
yeah, it's all make believe. I mean, it's just a fairy tale ultimately. I
And
mean, the people just need to realize that we're all equal, and nobody's better than anybody. And if you start thinking that you're better than somebody else, then you start to wonder why the world is such a messed up place. Because if we all cared for each other as we'd like to be cared for ourselves, we'd be living in a much happier place right now.
well said, well said. I mean, for starters, you can't really say that someone is better than another man or woman because you know, especially in today's world, you need money to do a course. So to become a doctor or nurse or any sort of profession that is well paid, you need a lot of money to do to even go on a course. So someone who's from a poor family is got a bad start in the system.
Definitely.
And so sorry to say, the way they're thinking is they're less of a man or woman. So they also think less of themselves and a low opinion of themselves, not confidence. And really, they're as equal as anyone else, equal as the King of Thailand, the Queen of England, the Pope. But all these we come into this world and we have to take on all these stupid titles, and to play a role as if that is really you
Yeah.
instead of experience in real life.
Because another thing that I wanted to bring up was obviously the topic of breastfeeding, and obviously that being an important uh, thing between the mother and child, because obviously it creates a bond, but also it gives them the milk that the natural human milk that they need to be strong. And
Yeah.
a lot of NHS, like, they have websites that they give their opinion, their advice on how long you should do it for. And I've heard of people in other countries like South America, Africa, where they sort of breastfeed for a lot longer than NHS would recommend. In some cases, 5 years or 6 years,
Well, that's amazing.
and it's like the children are very strong for it. And
Of course.
it's much better to take your mother's milk when you can, instead of taking cow's milk or some foreign beast animal
No,
that's
you're
out
right.
there.
I totally agree with that because I have heard that milk, what we have as a child from our mother, is adequate, sufficient enough for us throughout our whole life.
Definitely.
That's why eventually, the mother's milk or breast milk does does go off. I mean, when I say go off, it stops running,
That's right.
and you find the milk from animals, they can produce milk throughout their whole life, can't they?
That's right. Yeah.
So that the milk for the animals from the animals is meant for the animals.
That's right. So a cow's milk is meant for a calf,
You know,
and a
it's,
horse's milk would be for another
exactly. So
thing.
my theory is, the human being or the mother, her milk stops eventually. So that means, in my humble opinion, that milk is sufficient enough for your whole life. That's why it runs out.
Definitely.
Otherwise, maybe the woman would be drinking water and it sort of turns into milk. But it makes perfect sense that I did hear of a theory that the milk we have as children from our parents, from our mother, is sufficient to take throughout our whole life.
Definitely is.
So,
Yeah. So another thing that I wanted to raise was obviously the experience of sort of later on in visiting GPs. You know, maybe you could give me some experiences you've had, Diamond, of your trips to the GP.
well, unfortunately, growing up, I had asthma, and sorry to say, the GP gave me an inhaler, which just made me an addict. So, sorry to say, still to this day, I'm using the pump. A lot of it comes out of fear now of being breathless. And so, I seriously believe I could have avoided all that and just let myself recover the natural way instead of, as a young 10, 11-year-old boy, seeing the GP wheezing and they've given me this inhaler and that's it. But my other experiences of going to GPs haven't been good as well. I found GPs quite rude, not giving me time because of the way I look. They would see me, oh, you look like a strong young sportsman type, so just let him go. There's nothing wrong with him. So yeah, they do also discriminate as other professions do.
Definitely.
Even teachers would discriminate against children. Of how the child would look. So it runs in all sort of levels of work. Sorry to say, in work where we sort of put our trust in people. GPs are seen as people we should look up to, and in some cases, they tell us GP is some sort of authority. Because I would say that because they teach us that they know more than us about our own body, and we should make it our life mission to learn about our own body,
Definitely.
not to put all your trust into someone to give you medicine and you keep on going back to him. Okay, boss, you just tell me what I need. We are our own gods.
Because
We do.
I've had some experiences with the GP. One of the things I noticed, I lived in a town, like when I lived with my parents back in the day. I joined a GP surgery, and whenever they give me the appointment time, whatever it may be, say you got to be in for 6 p.m. I noticed that I never ever got seen at 6 p.m. Obviously, I'd turn up early for the appointment, but I'd be sitting in the waiting room for like 2 hours, and it felt at one point that the whole community, the whole town, went to this one GP, even though there's many GPs in the area.
Yes.
So I actually left that surgery later on, and found one where there was no waiting time, but I'm not going to reveal which one it is because.
I understand.
But
So,
yeah, but basically, I found that the GP was not interested in what my problem. It was like I'd just open my mouth, explain a few words, and without really going into detail, he wouldn't want to know what my problem was, and he'd probably just suggest like antibiotics or
that's
paracetamol.
well,
Um,
that's quite amazing because there is a pattern appearing now, isn't there? Like you talk to a GP and they're not interested. They ask you a question, but the answer they want to hear is something what they want to hear, not really what is the truth coming
exactly.
from you. And
Yeah.
it's a bit like talking to a teacher at school. The teacher will ask you a question, and you give them an answer what isn't on their list as being correct, but it could be the right answer, and they will try and argue or try and make you look silly. So, same with the policeman too. They might ask you a question, and you might tell them something none of your business. And no, you wouldn't say. I wouldn't be that sort of rude, but I would say something like, "Some the things that you don't need to know. Some things are personal." But
Because
it
another
was,
thing that I noticed about the GPs over here is they don't really dress like doctors. They normally just have a suit and tie on. I noticed quite a lot that they rely a lot on their internet connection on their computer, on probably on Google, to be honest. That is something that I've noticed, and they, you know, they don't ask you anything about your diet, about what you're eating, your nutrition, and they don't seem to know anything about that. All they seem to know about is drugs.
yeah, yeah, you're right there. Um, the diet and nutrition, everything what you put in your body is important. From your food to your drink to your thoughts even play a big effect on how your body functions. And for a GP not to get into that deeply shows that he's not interested. He hasn't got the time for you really, but he's on a good fat pay packet.
That's right. You always see them buy the most expensive cars and park them outside their surgeries, and they're just sort of, instead of thinking about the patient or whoever comes in, it's like all they care about is their wages, and they might know that later on that what they've been giving out is probably not very good, but because they're on that wage and they want to keep that lifestyle going, they're willing to just sort of like lie to kind of get on to get along, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And there's no sort of comebacks from the public because, as we said before, most people are quite happy to put their faith and trust in these people as if they are gods and messiahs that can heal you. But
Like
you know,
another thing that I wanted to bring up was obviously the the payments that people make through their that gets collected through the paycheck, obviously towards like national insurance. And a lot of people are not sure if that's what exactly that is for. Whether some people have belief that it's to pay for the hospital, the healthcare. Some people say it's for pension later on, but a lot of us believe that it's a bit of a scam really. But obviously everyone sort of pays into it. And one of the things I've realised is you're paying to keep that system going, but you might not use it very much. So in other words, it's like they're forcing you at gunpoint to pay towards something, contribute towards something that you might not use very much. And if you do use it once or twice in your life, then maybe you should get some of it back. But it seems they sort of rob you basically, and they use that as a means to do
yeah.
so.
Would you say, like, if you needed an emergency, not sure if you've ever been in that position, have you ever been seen straight away, or even you might be rushed in? Are you still waiting around?
Definitely. Yeah, they normally, I think they just put you in a corner and tell you to wait, and you don't know how long it's going to take, and to see somebody. And throughout the day you'll get different people coming up to you, like nurses sort of like trying to take blood from you. And but again, they're not talking to you, they're not really interested in how you're feeling, if everything's okay. Sometimes you can be left for a long time as well, hours, you know.
Because I remember I actually walked into a hospital once, and I was feeling really, really crap because I bought this chicken. This was years ago, and I think it was off. I bought it was actually chicken from a can as well, and I just I had some food poisoning, but I was really, 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 really in a bad way, and I walked to the hospital about 10:30 in the evening, and I even missed my Sunday morning football match. I was still waiting. I was seen eventually at about 9 o'clock the next day in the morning. They were just letting in. Children were seen before me. Um, Pisshead drunks who fell over in the street were seen before me. And there's me sitting down with my head all over the place. But by the time the morning came, I was okay. I was ready. I was ready to walk out myself.
Because
And yeah, it was the immune system, because when you have food poisoning, it does play in your mind. And so yeah, I was getting all these weird thoughts that I was going to die because of the food poisoning.
that's another thing that you just reminded me of is obviously you get the people that kind of abuse themselves. So they'll get blind drunk and on a night out, and they might get into a fight, or just be over, over the top intoxicated. And obviously a lot of these types, every sort of weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the busiest time for A&E, they'll be in there. And it's like they don't really care about their own health, so they're just sort of like hoping that they'll help them, but really they should be helping themselves. Shouldn't be drinking as much as they are, or drinking at all, to be honest, if they can't control it, their problem. It's really sad, and people complain about why it's so expensive to run the whole system, but people abusing it is a big problem too. And
I agree.
obviously, if we all took our health into our own hands and looked after ourselves, there'd be no reason to for it to be so expensive. And
I totally agree. I mean, I think most of the citizens in the country are totally, totally fed up with this, of paying all this money into this failing system. what they can't use. And another thing that sort of annoys people, sorry to say, is the people that get treated from it from overseas,
That's right. Yeah, that's a classic
which
one.
does annoy a lot of the local people. Who, their argument is these people have never paid into it and are jumping the queue.
That's right. Yeah, and that does happen a lot. I think that's one of the reasons why it's quite attractive to live on this island. Is people see the so-called free health, the free education. I mean, it's not the health isn't really free. I mean, if you're working, you are contributing towards it. But
Sure.
obviously, if you're unemployed or you just arrived to the country and you're on some kind of welfare, you can utilize that system, and maybe back in their country, it might be private. They can't afford to pay for it. So you can see why it's so attractive to move to this island, but obviously, um, the elites would use that as an excuse to say, well, this is why it's so expensive, and now we need to put the price up. But as we
Yes,
know, that putting the price up is not going to solve the problem. You
that's
know.
true. That's true. But
Um,
also, if you're in a position where you can look after yourself and you are confident in looking after yourself, and you're also in a position to go to another country, I think you should be strong in yourself and go for it, and do not worry about the healthcare system in the UK. Because I noticed, after talking to a lot of people, there's one thing that holds a lot of people back into staying in the UK is the healthcare. They see the healthcare as the best thing in the world, which it may be, but you shouldn't think of yourself being sick.
because I have a friend that his parents they've retired, and they travel back and forth to Grenada, but their main home is here on this island, and the reason that they're not fully committing to moving back to the beautiful island of Grenada is because of the healthcare. They want the healthcare here, and because they're getting old, they think automatically because they're old they're going to be sick, and
Yeah.
they're going to be ill. But I can guarantee you that if they went to live there on the island of Grenada, they probably be much healthier. Much better food, much better weather. Be perfect for retirement. Perfect condition.
Well, they're robbing themselves. A lot of people came to this country to work for a few years and go back, and now they have the opportunity to go back. It's sad that the seed has been planted that they're always going to be sick, and the only they're always going to be maybe 10, 20 minutes away from a hospital. Not a good way to live your life, really, because you know just imagine the benefits they'll be receiving from that beautiful island. The fresh fruit every day, good food, and that alone will make you happy, and give you extended quality of life.
Because I think that one of the problems with a lot of people is the relying on others, all the time. So, you're relying on all these services that the system offers. I'm not saying that, that then some of them aren't good, because they are. And again, we're not knocking the people that are working in these industries, because at the end of the day, they are just doing their job, and they maybe are trying to help. But I think that people need to kind of like be more sovereign, more look after themselves,
Yeah,
rather than all the time thinking, I need this in place to be helped, and I need this in place to be helped, instead of fixing your own self, and your own home and family, and you know, um, like I'm sure many years ago, if somebody wasn't feeling well, they would call a friend or a family member to come and look after them. But
that's true.
now it's like you call a doctor or an ambulance,
That's true. Well, like we're talking about in the Caribbean, probably the same in South America. A lot of in the Far East as well, I would imagine. When someone was sick, they would have bush. Outside, your grandparents would know what to mix, what to cook, and those traditions haven't been passed down to the younger generations. So, that is one thing where the system, the medical industry, has taken advantage of our lack of knowledge.
Definitely.
And
And obviously, another big one is diseases, in particular cancer. And I mean, I know for sure that the insurance companies and hospitals, medical industry make a lot of money off that. And obviously, they haven't really got a clue how to cure it. They do this thing called chemotherapy where they basically nuke your body, your immune system, and some people will swear by it and say it's good, but ultimately there's things that have been hidden from us that can, well, not even hidden, but that we can do, but we just don't have the knowledge. And
it's true.
I think people need to learn about certain plants, herbs, eating fresh fruit and veg, maybe eating raw sometimes.
Yeah,
Um,
it's like yourself, I have heard that eating raw is probably the best way, and we've been fixated throughout our whole life to cook everything, and not realizing that having raw food is just as good, if,
Definitely.
if not even better. I'm not talking about everything, because some things you may have to cook just so you do not break your teeth.
Yeah, yeah, because I definitely feel that there's you know a lot of deception in the medical industry, and again, it's that thing where a lot of the things that were probably available a long time ago that you could have healed yourself really quickly, they've kind of hidden from us. Like they patent all these herbs now, and
It's true.
so that people can't access them, and you can't import them or export them because it's EU and all that, United Nations.
That's true. It's shocking. Like the things we take every day, like toothpaste. A lot of that would be quite bad for us too.
Definitely, I recommend fluoride-free toothpaste is would be good, or if you could get some natural toothpaste that you can find certain places that do that where they take out the fluoride.
That's right, because it's the fluoride that makes it bad.
It's like
Uh,
equivalent of rat poison. Somebody described it to me
yeah,
once. Yeah, you could use it for rat poison
and also the fluoride in our water as well.
because there's no new water coming through. The water that we have is always been around. It just keeps it's on a rotation.
Yes,
So there's no such thing as new water out there. Everything is kind of recycled in some way or another. I mean, but obviously, if you can access certain spring water, or get a distiller, or go on your own urine.
like you said, I would say what you have, a distiller, and you've got your to filter out the chemicals in the water.
Definitely.
And how do you find that superb? Because you've been using it for quite a while, and
Yeah, I personally recommend it to everybody. I think that it was one of the best things I ever bought, to be honest.
and
Um,
also
it's
brilliant.
amazing. Yeah, it's amazing. Really, really feel really good for doing it, and everything, your skin, everything gets really clean and clear, and your body feels very, very nice. It's very good for you.
And also a juicer, which is probably up there as one of the best things you can do.
Definitely.
I would recommend every household to get one. That's when you mix up all the fruits, even veg as well, all things what you wouldn't eat,
Definitely.
and you drink it because drinking. when you drink the fluid, it goes to your blood much quicker. So in some cases, drinking fruit is actually better than eating. So,
Definitely.
so and actually, there are people with juicers that have actually been cured from cancer. The early stages of it have been cured. So,
And
but
another thing that we need to remember is obviously exercise. That's very important for your health.
well said. How could we forget that?
Yeah,
That's something we love doing. And what do they recommend? 30 minutes a day walking?
something like that. Yeah, but again, I think that is just their opinion. But I think you can do more than that if
Yeah,
you know start off slow, obviously, and build yourself up. But yeah, definitely you could do a lot more. And obviously, don't be obese. That's important too. Make sure that you keep your weight down. Your natural weight. You shouldn't be carrying any excess weight because that's going to make you cause you problems down the line, or you
yeah,
know,
I agree.
cutting out meat. Would you say, Diamond? It's an important one.
For sure, big time. For sure. I mean, if you can, try and stop eating meat, then you're eliminating heart disease and a visit to the doctor. And as they say, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. But I would go even further: have an apple, orange, banana.
um, yeah, and another one that is important is to kind of monitor yourself as well. I mean, obviously, listen to your body because you might feel not too good, and trying to figure out what's wrong with you, but don't sort of leave the problem. Make sure that you tackle it. A lot of people they have problems that they keep to themselves, or I'll be okay tomorrow. But if you're still feeling bad after a few days, you need to do something, like maybe get more rest.
Yeah,
Listen to your body. It's very important.
that's true. But always watch what your intake is, because what you're putting inside your body um, results in how you feel, how you perform, also your thoughts as well. You need to try your best to think positive, stay upbeat, because it's proven that a lot of people who are constantly on a downer are susceptible to picking up cancer.
Definitely.
Because your cells are under attack all the time, and through those injections we all had as children, it's taken its toll. And through the garbage we eat, through the processed food, there's only so much your white cells can do to protect you. So really, really monitor what you eat, and cook instead of eat out. Buy a lot of veg, greens, drink a lot of water. Water is is what we are. 70% of our body is water,
Definitely.
and think positive. Believe. Know what you are. Know that you're great.
Because that's another big one that a lot of people don't mention is obviously stress, suffering from depression can happen to us all, and a lot of the time it just comes out of nowhere. We Sometimes it's difficult to find out why we're feeling the way we are, and I guess
Yeah,
it's important to to again know yourself and be content in yourself, and
that is the thing. We need to get back to loving yourself. And a lot of people will say that's not a good thing, and they will trick you into believing that you can't love yourself. Someone's going to love you. But true love is when you actually love yourself first. Then you can show love.
definitely.
Well, what is the point on not loving yourself and being, hoping someone is going to sort of fix you? It's like you looking for a doctor again.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of lonely people out there, and they will say to you they need a relationship, which they probably do, but first of all they need to love themselves. Then they can love others and have a relationship with themselves first, and see
Definitely.
how good, realize how good they are. Because that depressing feeling or that depressing energy is not good.
And like a lot of people suffer from what they call white coat syndrome. So they see a doctor, they're in a hospital, that environment's like not good for them. So instead of actually getting better, they're getting worse just for being there and being around that people. And obviously, if you always, I was going to say another thing, that you should never take one opinion. If you have to see one of these guys, never take just one opinion. Always get second, third, fourth, because a lot of them can give you completely wrong information, and again, that affects your mind. This is another thing about when somebody tells you something upsetting, it is going to play on your mind, and you
All
got
the
to
time,
learn to control it.
all the time, because when they give you some bad news, it's they're actually sort of getting you to plant the seed of doubt or the end in your own self. So, and then if a doctor says to you that you're absolutely perfect, you're in great health, and you feel really, really crap, all of a sudden they feel good because they do look at them as the gods. So, but like you said, superb. Get a second opinion and do your own research because everything's out there now.
Definitely,
We're at an age, a time, in the universe where information is readily available for everyone, and the awakening is here right now. So those who want the truth can find it easy. Those who are not interested, just let things go by and carry on what you're doing.
definitely,
But no, there's no time, no greater time to be alive than now.
definitely true. I mean, ultimately, I think we've lost ourselves in a way that we are so heavily reliant now on other services, and again, I'm not knocking these services. I'm just saying that we should take things into our own hands more, and learn about things. It doesn't take that long to look it up online or read a book. So try and learn new things that will benefit yourself and family members, friends, or just anybody in general. Because it's always good to have knowledge about things that can help you later on.
Because that's the thing, we were tricked from school just to learn a few things, but the main thing of school was to have us put and know our place.
Definitely. I
Who the
mean,
masters are.
I noticed at school there was a couple of things that they didn't teach us. One was like the law, the man's law. The other one was like real world math. So whenever you get a job and you have to pay bills, you don't, it's difficult to know. I mean, it's all fiction, but nobody really knows how to add and subtract and you work out everything. Especially when the banks, if you let the banks get involved in your life.
Yeah,
But obviously, the third one's your health. When do you ever get a lesson about your body and health? It's just not even considered. So there's definitely a reason behind those three that they don't teach them.
yeah, of course. They never taught us about yourself. The greatest thing is you, and all they're teaching you is about outside of you, about jobs that and things that are irrelevant, only relevant to the banks at the end of the day. Because when you're learning about money and work, it's not really to help the community. It's to build the country, and in most cases can be the end of the country because you know when they're ready they start wars. And we're going through a time now where there's been quite a few wars of late where the people are not happy about, but governments take the people into war.
Definitely.
So, and one thing, what we definitely never learned at school, which there is, I think, in a million years they'll never teach us unless the whole structure changes, is the planet, the world, the land we walk on.
Definitely.
You know, if we learn and knew what we walked on, what we live on, and you know what our planet is, it's being a living spirit, being alive, and everything on the ground, or what grows us for us, heals us. You know, everything has its place. The trees, every plant, every insect. But no, we've that's all foreign to most of us now. And it seems like the people that respect that are people that live around the bush, like indigenous tribes around the world, who unfortunately do not really mix with mainstream society and are seen as backward. But really, I see them as the smartest people on the planet.
Definitely. Yeah, they haven't been corrupted like the rest of us, in terms of going through the meat processor kind
Yeah,
of
of
thing.
course.
Yeah,
I've had the pleasure of meeting a few Aboriginals, real Aboriginals in Philippines and during my time in Australia as well. And you know, they taught me so much about the land and also clothing as well. You know, one Australian said to me, "You were born." You know, his reason for walking around barefooted was, you know, you're born naked. There are no shoes, so what makes you such a big shot walking around with shoes on on grass? You know, you. And he taught me a great lesson about why they call it the sole of your foot, because they call that the sole because it's close to the ground, and you have your inner sole.
that's
So I
right.
thought, yeah, your sole and your foot connects to the ground, so you've got a connection there already
Definitely.
to the earth,
Because
and yeah,
over in South America, like I've heard about the original people from there, and they don't trust like you know I don't know what to call it, civilized or people living in a city society.
yeah, of course. Well,
They and I don't blame them, to be honest. I understand why they don't trust them because
they've been killed and raped.
yeah,
Their
exactly,
land has been taken. You know, I would put Red Indians in that same sort of group.
definitely.
Original Americans, you know, and Aboriginals who had Australia, their land was taken from them. So I would totally agree with them not to trust them. You see where they end up.
Yeah, because I mean, we could learn so much from them. It's just a shame that the reputation that we've been given. Because obviously we're not all bad. Some of us do want to learn the old ways and
Yeah, of
you
course.
know some of the old recipes and things like apple cider vinegar. Not many people know about them, but obviously they were part of our. There were things we missed, and a lot of this knowledge is just completely gone now. I mean, in terms, it's out there, but you just need to really search and dig for it now. But
I agree. You know, I would say everything is out there. Everything we need to survive as a people, as a human race, is out there. And like you said, it just that famous saying from the Bible: if you he who will seek will find.
definitely. Um, yeah, well, I think that's a pretty good show for this time out, Diamond. I think the main message I'd like to give is just obviously be your own doctor, do the research, look after yourself. Anything you'd like to add, Diamond?
Yeah, I would agree. Do your homework and you know trust yourself. Know how great you are and love yourself and you know think positive and treat your fellow man with love and respect, which has been going on lately around the Philippines. I just want to take this moment to offer my condolences to those who have lost family members and loved ones in the Philippines, and
Same here. Same
I'd just
here.
like to sort of congratulate everyone around the world for helping, and I wish this sort of love can continue around and stay. instead of war. Let's promote love and oneness. We're one human race. There's no countries. Forget that. We're one people, and we should be here to look after each other. And I'd like to see that place back on its, those people back on their feet soon. And superb. It's been a great show again, and
Yep, same to you. Thanks, Diamond.
peace and love to all.
Yep,
And looking forward to the next show.
yep, looking forward to it, and yep, I'll can't wait to catch up next week, and hope you all enjoyed this show. Take care. Best wishes.